and welcome to Go Figure, the weekly show where we discuss the current affairs of the UK with a range of guests. I'm Hayley Dean, and this week we will be discussing: is the recent law in gay marriage being passed in churches that choose to opt in a good thing or a bad thing for the UK? Also, are the higher student fees worth the increased debt, and are we getting value for our money? Now on to student loans. Are we paying too much for too little education? Here with a special report on the subject, we have Bradley Evans.
As a result of student fees increasing from £3,290 to £21,000 for a 3-year degree course, student demonstrators took the streets on the 24th and 30th of November and again on the 9th of December 2010. The first protest was pre-approved by police as originally it was to be a peaceful protest. However, crowds began to build quickly and the situation escalated into a riot which included the raid of Millbank, the Conservative headquarters. Over the following weeks, several more protests took place throughout England as students continued to demonstrate their anger towards the government and the rise in tuition fees.
Now, as of February this year, students studying at British universities in 2012 to 2013 collectively owe almost £20 billion, according to a recent report by YouGov. Today, we will be finding out why tuition fees have increased from £3,000 last year to £9,000 this year, and we will be asking the students what impact this has had on their lives. To discuss this, I would like to welcome and introduce my guests: an Anglia-Ruskin student finance advisor, Matt Hayler, and also joining us is our video correspondent, Bradley Evans. Thank you both very much for coming in today. Matt, first of all, do you want to start just by telling me a little bit about your job role and what it entails?
Yeah, I'm a student money advisor here at Anglia-Ruskin University for the Money Advice Service. Part of what we do is pre-entry guidance, so if someone comes inquiring about a course, we can talk them through what funding is available. Once they're on the course, we can look at all the extras that might be available to help them stay.
Cool. And now, I've already said we're talking today mainly about the big jump in university fees, which has been a controversial thing, and I imagine the finance department is very busy as a result of it. Anglia-Ruskin actually are charging, am I right in saying, just over £8,000?
£8,300.
Yeah, so what was the decision to not charge the full amount of £9,000?
Well, I think it's partly to be competitive, and one of the reasons as well that universities are having to charge the extra money is because funding has been taken away from the system. So it's not the universities being greedy per se, it's just making up for the income that they've lost from the government. And
what are the most common inquiries that you get from students or concerns within your job role?
Well, mainly it would be about living costs, to be honest. The fee issue is obviously a concern to students, but the way the tuition fee loan is laid out is such that you don't have to pay for upfront costs. So you don't have to worry about paying these loans off until you finish and earn £21,000. So there's more concern, I think, with living costs, paying rent in Cambridge. Cambridge is very expensive, just generally surviving. So it's crucial that students know how to get the right package from Student Finance England and about all the extras they can get: student bank accounts, part-time work, that kind of thing, and that's where we can advise.
Now, Bradley, you're a student here at Anglia-Ruskin. Do you want to tell us what your biggest concerns were with coming here and paying these higher fees, and where you struggle most when it comes to finance?
Well, if I can answer the last part of the question first, the trouble I have with finance, my concern with finance actually was not with what I have to pay, because I know that I've got a few grants from the university itself, so they're doing what they can. But when it comes to student finance and what the government give you, if I was living with my dad, because I live with my mum and I get the full amount because she's ill, but if I live with my dad, I wouldn't get hardly anything at all. And you were saying a minute ago about the living costs and everything. That's not really doubt. Obviously, the uni can help you; they can advise you. But where the money's actually coming from, if I come from a wealthier background, but my parents aren't necessarily willing to help me out, I mean, what was I supposed to do if that was the case? Yeah. I think that's where a lot of students, maybe that's why they're put off more now than what we would have been before.
I mean, you can see nodding along here, Matt. Is that something that you tackle a lot?
That's why it's even more, important that students come along and seek our services. It's not just the money advice service. We've got careers, we've got study support, we've got counsellors, all there to help. But it's what you were saying about being assessed is very important, that students realise how they're assessed. Because a lot of students I see aren't on the correct funding package, and we can help them get that right.
Yeah, so they should come and see you if they've got any issues at all here. Thank you both very much for coming in. Unfortunately, we are out of time for this section, but now we're going to take a look at what happened when I spoke to the good people of Cambridge about their views on gay marriage. I'm here in the Grafton Centre in the city of Cambridge, going to be asking people their opinions on gay marriage. Will they agree or disagree? I'm about to go find out.
For gay marriage, I just see it as a preference, to be honest. It's like people prefer, it's like colours in a sense to me, like people prefer red or blue, so I don't really mind, to be honest.
So you're for gay marriage?
For, definitely for.
I don't object to them being together, and I don't object to whatever it is they do, but I don't
Yeah, okay. Is that because of religious points of view?
Well, no, marriage is for getting married, having children, they're to do that, not biologically, they're not.
I'm very pro it, just because it just seems a bit silly to deprive people of the opportunity to get married for the sake of something so trivial. Love is love, and I thought marriage was supposed to be a celebration of that.
So the people of Cambridge have had mixed opinions today. Some people are agreeing, some are disagreeing, and some are still sat on the fence. I guess it's going to be an ongoing debate for a little while. Right, now to discuss this topic further, I'm joined in the studio by two guests. My first guest is Aiden, who, despite being from a Catholic background, both he and his family have decided to fully support his sister's decision to come out as gay. My second guest is David Gobbett, an associate pastor at the Eden Baptist Church here in Cambridge. Thank you both so much for coming in today, really appreciate it. First of all, I'd just like to generally ask you your views on the legalisation of gay marriage and how you view it as a positive or negative thing.
You mentioned legalisation of gay marriage. I guess we're still kind of in the process of that.
Yeah.
David Cameron, I think 3 days before the general election, said he had no intention of introducing gay marriage. None of the election manifestos of the three main parties had that in their manifesto. Even the discussion about it has happened at the second reading of the comment. It's still a long way from being kind of instituted as law. Though as a Christian, I would say that I think it's a very sad thing. I think marriage is the union of one man and one woman for life. I think that's been the definition of marriage from time immemorial. It goes back throughout the world, throughout the cultures, and I don't think we have the right particularly to legally redefine it. And I think that when we attempt to do that, we're tampering with something that is beyond us, really. Yeah.
And Aiden, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, you're Catholic, and we've already mentioned that you have a sister who is gay, so maybe that alters your views slightly. Can you just talk us through the religious views of Catholicism on gay marriage and then your personal views?
Sure. Well, the religious views, Catholicism is a form of Christianity, obviously it's a branch, and by my understanding it's a slightly more conservative branch. It's a very strict religion. It's often comedy. People say Catholics just say no to everything. But again, in the modern world, I think it's a bit more accepting. My personal opinion is that we need to accept people how they come. If people want to be gay, and obviously with my sister, I was happy for people to be gay and to be. I saw the civil partnership as marriage anyway. I wasn't really clear on the subject, but having it legalised, well, almost legalised now, is it's a clear definition of what can happen between gay people, and I think it's right that people should be able to marry.
I mean, we've touched briefly on your personal opinions of marriage, and we heard in the VT, it's quite interesting, there were two ladies that were sort of agreeing with you, Dave, saying that, marriage is for man and for women, and, with a future of making children, which, gay people can't physically make their own children. I mean, we've moved on a long time. Being gay was made legal 46 years ago now. Couples can adopt. So do you not think it makes sense for them to be allowed to marry, or do you just feel that it's that step too far for you, Dave?
Yeah, I think in whatever it was 67 when gay sex was decriminalised, I think that was a good thing. I think for any given state to make a criminal ruling on something which I think is a moral issue, I think is just overreaching. And so I think any traces of homophobia, I think we want to kind of expunge really. And I certainly, as a Christian, I think the church has been guilty. But there is a difference between being able to say that I differ with you and I hate you. And I want to kind of really affirm that. And I think that there is a concern that that when we kind of start to tamper with a definition, so say for example, if the definition of marriage, if you love someone and are prepared to commit to them, then that equates to being able to be married, which is the kind of Cameron definition. Why can't three people who are prepared to do that commit to each other and form a polyamorous, many loving marriage, which has happened in Brazil, in the Netherlands. What about the issue that some people think, well, I don't want to commit for life, and marriage supposedly is a permanent thing.
Yeah.
No one goes into marriage planning to divorce, they plan to live together. But when you've redefined it and you said it's about my love and my commitment, why not build in a short-term contract marriage, which again is happening in Brazil? So you redefine marriage, you lose any definition of marriage at all. I'm concerned for my children. I'm concerned that teachers who take by conscience, a religious freedom, they're free to hold their views of the Bible and think that the Bible is very clear, I think, on homosexuality. Nothing to do, it's not talking about the fact that our desires may be toward a same-sex partner, but that we want to live that out. The Bible is very clear that is not in line with God's law. He accepts people and wants to rescue them and forgive them, but that's not right. But I can't, if I'm a teacher at a school, am I allowed to not teach from kids' books? There was a case in July 2012 which a lawyer said that there was no standing that a Muslim or a Sikh or a Hindu or a Christian teacher would have to teach from literature that promoted same-sex marriage or lose their jobs. Parents can't withdraw their children from classes that are teaching same-sex marriage. In Canada, that's been passed as law. I'm very concerned about the kind of slippery slope of the position.
No, I understand it is very slippery slope with the marriage. I personally don't want to see like three people being married together. For me, it's two people together, and it is quite dangerous. We could go off really on a massive tangent, but I would guess it would go on the morals and the majority of the society. And I'd hate to say that people form separate societies because everyone should live in harmony together.
Sure. I guess the question is it a majority of the society? I would say let's have a referendum on it. Let's actually see. Let's take your poll to the whole of the country. It's 67% of ethnic minorities are opposed to it. I think it's a very divisive law. I think in a recent YouGov poll by the Times just before the 4th of February vote, 48% of people were voting against. Of the popular vote were saying against gay marriage, 43 were pro it and 10% weren't sure. So it is far from a majority. I think we're talking about 6,000 civil partnerships a year, and to change an institution that has been around since all living memory, for the sake of that, I just think is dangerous.
Well, it's funny you should mention statistics because it's not actually. I think a lot of people think, oh, everyone's for it. It's just, and I think that people do think it's just religions that are against it, or you must be homophobic if you're against it, which clearly you're not, because you've got a gay sister and you've sat and said civil partnerships, that's fine. And we've actually got some statistics here. The Tories vote, we had 127 yeses, 136 noes, and 40 abstained. How does that make you both feel?
Well, I think it's clearly not an overwhelming number. It's 175 people voted against. Nearly a third, basically, if you include abstentions, were opposed to it. I think it would be irresponsible of any government to kind of force this through. I think, as a Christian, I want to affirm. I think it's absolutely right that we do have internal desires all over the place. I think the Bible actually goes on to say that if you lust after someone, whether they're a man or a woman, you've committed adultery in our heart, and God is upset with that. But because of His forgiveness, He wants to accept anyone who comes to Him. But if we come to Him, we have to follow that there are kind of entailments. I can't carry on living life my way. And I think it's abundantly clear from the Bible, but from culture more widely. Marriage is between one husband and one wife for life.
Yeah.
No, it's understandable. From your statistics you all gave, I'm happy in a way, but also sad in a way. My personal opinion is I wish it would be a more majority in favour. But I'm also glad that people are still saying no. It is like people are still free to give their opinion. People are still happy to say no. Well, I don't agree, which is the ethics of democracy.
But my kids' school teachers won't be entitled to not teach this when it becomes law, or they'll face the sack. I'm terrified about where that's going to go.
Yeah, no, it's a very interesting debate, and really could talk to you about it for much longer, but unfortunately we are going to have to leave it there. I think it's going to be an ongoing debate for a while. A very interesting discussion with some quite surprising results. Thank you both again very much for talking with me today. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our show's participants, and I hope today has given you, the viewer, something to think about. My name is Hayley Dean, and this has been Go Figure.